She is running teams, she's closing deals, and speaking on stages. Her name is on the building. Her name is on the office door, in the credits, or on the call sheet. She's the VIP or the founder, the woman with the blue check, the guest on TV shows and movies, always getting invitations to events around the city. She has access to rooms that most people never even know exist. And yet, she comes home to a quiet house. She checks her phone, not for the next meeting, but because she hopes somebody who actually sees her might have reached out. Nobody is really talking to her, not in the way she wants. Now, the dating advice out there from the culture is really created and written and produced and put out there for someone with nothing to lose, or may not have everything on the line to lose like she does, but she has a name, she has a reputation, she has assets, a brand, and people watching everything she does. She can't just date any man or anyone or any kind of way. She needs to move smart because she moves in high risk environments and cannot afford a risky entanglement with the wrong man. So she stays guarded. She stays focused and quietly behind all of that success. She wonders if it's even possible for a woman like her to actually get to the altar with the man she wants. That is what we're talking about in this live stream. And if that is you, welcome home. You're in the right space. Hello, I'm Mrs. Nicole Michelle, founder of the Inner Beauty Movement. I advise women on wife preparation and coveted marriage strategy, like Naomi guided Ruth, and simplify what it actually takes for a woman to be chosen to be a wife and covered by a man who is ready. And in this live stream is specifically for a woman, a specific woman, and she knows exactly who she is. Real quick, if you are new here, welcome. Hit the subscribe button and drop a hello in the chat, and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Nicole Michelle. If you are returning, hello, good to see you, and welcome back to our elite tribe and future wives and our friends out there. And if you stay to the end, I have something today that I have been building for a long time, and it is finally here. So let's go. Okay. So, first, let me make this disclaimer for those of you listening on the live, especially on the rebroadcast. Just because we're talking about marriage and how to prepare to be a wife, we are in no way, shape, or form suggesting you are less than or inadequate as a woman because you're not married yet. We are here to help you on this journey. If you are here now, or on the rebroadcast, it's because something about this topic is hitting home in some way, and you want to know how to fit this final piece of the puzzle together in your life. That's brave, and that's actually rebelling against the counterculture, okay? Much of what we say here is counterculture. We address pink elephants head on right here. We don't pull any punches. Our mission here is to assist and advise you on your journey to becoming a wife in the ways you need, rather than what's hot and what's trending. So I want you to feel at home here, in our spaces, protected, and I want you to feel free to open up and let yourself be seen. Shout out to those of you joining me on the live. I appreciate you all. Good to see you all again. And shout out to those of you joining me for the very first time. I just want to say that, and I want to say I appreciate those of you that show up time and time again, all the time. I see you, I don't forget you. So let's get started because I have 6 points I want to touch on, and we won't be long, but I do think that this is going to be a very good discussion. Success teaches women how to protect their time, protect their image, protect their money, to create strict boundaries around their corporate success and protect their opportunities. That is what the boardroom trains you to do. Evaluate, filter, protect. Evaluate, filter, protect. Evaluate, filter, protect. But love requires something different. Not less wisdom, just different wisdom. And most successful women may never have had it explained to them what that difference actually looks like. And for those of you who will be in Bible study somewhere this week, or you have your own Bible study at home, before we get too deep into the lesson, I want to give you a Bible study verse that I have found very, very fruitful and is one of the cornerstone scriptures to this space. And this applies here, Proverbs 4:23. It says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Now, I could stay right there, but I'm going to move on. But if you all are into Bible study, go ahead and dissect that scripture in your groups. That scripture is not telling you to close your heart. It is telling you to be discerning about what you let in. There's a difference between a guarded heart and a wise heart. And so right now we're going to talk about how a visible, accomplished woman moves from one to the other and how she actually gets to the altar. So talking point number one, all right, and this problem is not your success, it's actually your strategy. Let me explain. The first thing I need to say out loud is this: you're not single because you're too much or too educated or too competent or too successful or too wealthy and all of the 99 million other reasons the culture tells you. And might have some points there, but that's not the sole reason or contributing factor to why marriage hasn't happened yet. You're not single because successful men are intimidated. That's what we want to believe. That's a safe assumption to make, but it's not always completely accurate. You're not single because your standards are too high. We want to lean into that sometimes to protect our own feelings or our own emotions there. That's not quite always the situation there. But let's nip that in the bud right now. That's what the culture has pushed on you, and it's not completely true. You are single, what I've seen professionally and from the high powered, high status women that I have worked with. I've seen they're single because the strategy that they have built for their career doesn't translate as is into the life they actually want. Hear me out. A career rewards efficiency. It rewards performance. It rewards results that you can actually measure. You bring that same energy into your love life, and it looks like hyper evaluation. It looks like short timelines. It looks like walking away from anything that doesn't produce on your schedule. Following me here? Put a one in the chat if you're hanging with me, right? Okay. A man trying to court a woman like you often feels like he is being interviewed, not genuinely liked for who he is. Okay, before you click off, hear me out. It's not because you're wrong for having standards. Those are good. Those are good. Keep those. But because the evaluation process is out of place in a space that also requires feminine receptivity. Many successful women are not single because they're undesirable. It's quite the opposite. They're single because they have not built a love strategy that matches the level of life they have built. That is not a character flaw. It is just a gap in the romance education. And I've discovered the gap. That's it. And that's exactly what we're going to address in this live stream. I'm going to give you a framework later in this live stream, 5 specific filters designed for women with visibility, reputation, and something to lose. But first, I need to name some things you may not be willing to say out loud. So, drop in the chat for those of you joining me live. When it comes to dating, do you evaluate more than you receive? Yes or no? No right or wrong answers. The chat goes away after the live. You're welcome for the Bible scripture. You're welcome. Those of you on my other platforms, I'm getting an error message. So if you're having a difficult time, just go ahead and click the link and join us over here on the YouTube side. All right, the next point I want to make is sometimes you don't even know who's sincere, and that's the real fear. Here is what nobody wants to address out loud in the professional world and public figure sphere. The more visible you become, the harder it is to know who actually wants you for you. Some men, are attracted to your status, but not prepared to be the husband you can depend on in marriage. And you find that out. They look good, they sound good, they seem connected, they seem cool because of who introduced you or what spaces they were in when you met them. But then when you get behind closed doors, you're like, okay, he's not even ready for what I'm ready for. Some men admire you publicly and then resent you privately. Yikes. And then some men want access, not actually a covenant with you that God can smile on. Some men like the idea of a successful woman until they realize admiration is not the same as capacity. You following me? So, you have been studied. You have been approached by men who did their research on you before they ever said hello. And somewhere along the way, you started treating every approach like a threat because enough of them were. They either saw you on TV or saw you on social media or saw you as this high-powered woman walking around the office, and they studied you. And because they've observed you, they think they know you on a personal level. And so they stop trying to really get to know you. They just think they know you because they're familiar with your public persona or the things that they've heard and seen, but they don't really get to dive deep into who you really are. So you build walls and you call them standards. You build distance and you call it discernment. Or you start suppressing your emotions. You don't really want to show how you really feel. And you wonder why no one gets close enough to actually court you for marriage. Here is what I want you to hear with your heart. Okay, your fear of being used is legitimate. I'm not downplaying that. A woman with a name, an audience, above average beauty, right? Highly intelligent, an international brand or a portfolio. Okay, you have a portfolio. You have something people want that is real. But fear cannot be your filter because fear will keep out the wrong men and also keep out the right ones. One more scripture, 1 Corinthians 13 reminds us that love is not suspicious. It bears all things, believes all things. That is not naivete. That is the posture of a woman who is discerning, not defended. Real discernment and vetting skills is not fear with the name on it. It is a trained skill. And I'm going to show you how to build that. Have you ever kept a good man at arm's length because you're protecting yourself from a bad one? Drop a yes in the chat if this has happened to you. I know it's happened to me before. And it's usually after a breakup or something difficult or a difficult split. And my defenses immediately go up because my feelings are raw and, just got out of a painful something that didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And boom, next my wall's up. Been there, done that. You may be excellent at vetting resumes, but not necessarily character. You know how to vet a candidate. You know how to read a boardroom. You know how to handle the press and the media. You understand how to move well in high trust environments. And trust me, I am not looking down on that skill. I actually teach those skills in the in the Feminine Elite Society app that's available on Google and Apple for those women looking to develop those skills. But you already have those. You're good at those. And you know how to identify whether someone is qualified on paper. But character does not show up on paper. Okay. And most successful women have never had it specifically explained to them how to vet for it in the context of romantic pursuit. So she may confuse chemistry with safety. Like a man who makes her feel energized and sexually attracted to him and even challenged by him, that might feel like a match initially, but chemistry is not compatibility, and excitement will not get you to the altar. Now, if it gets you to the altar, it's not going to be the marriage you're looking for, honey. So she may be too busy to build the emotional rhythm that courtship actually requires. Courtship takes time. Let me say this again. Courtship takes time. It takes consistency. It takes being present enough to observe how someone behaves over a stretch of time, not just in the highlights. And so here is something tough. Let me hold your hand through this because this is a hard truth. A man who wants access to your life is very motivated. Okay? He will show up consistently. He will say the right things. He will be patient for a season. Right? He knows exactly what to do for a season. The difference between a man pursuing you to be his wife and a man managing you is revealed in what he does when there is no audience, no cameras, no blogs, no podcasts, no social media, no industry execs, no high powered networks in the room, no benefit and no applause. When he shows up like you need him to show up, when none of those things are around, you have a winner. That is character. And character requires time and the right context to even be able to recognize it clearly. And I have a filter built specifically for this, and I'll name it for you when we get to that framework. Have you ever confused chemistry with safety in a relationship? I know I have. Drop a yes in the chat. Drop a no in the chat. But I know I've had those times where I got confused and I misstepped. It happens. A public woman needs a man who knows how to honor her privately. And this is huge. This is what a lot of public figure women, a lot of C-suite women, a lot of women that are in the public square, recognizable faces, they kind of lull over this point or miss it. But we've been talking about you. So let's switch and talk about him. A public woman like yourself with high visibility, with a following, with a recognizable brand, and with a professional identity, you need a specific kind of man, period. And a lot of people who don't understand your world, they try to demonize you for this, but I get it. Even me and my little corporate job, I get it. It was, people try to just assign this one size fits all dating advice for you, and it really doesn't fit you. A lot of it's down market. It doesn't even fit you. You don't need every kind of man. All advice doesn't fit you. One size fits all. There's some things that are general, a lot of things are not, and you cannot just date any old kind of man. It just won't fit. He doesn't have to be perfect, but you need a man with his own goals. A man who has the maturity to honor you privately without needing to compete with you publicly. This is what a lot of women have found out the hard way. We can name them. We can name them. We know them, right? Where they're in the public eye and they have these public relationships, and we've seen her learn this lesson the hard way. Some men are impressed by accomplished women until they realize admiration is not the same as capacity. They can celebrate her in public and then turn around and shrink her in private. They can tell everyone she's amazing. They can talk to the blogs, and they can show up on the red carpet, and they can go to her business events with her on her arm. And oh, she's amazing, and yes, my woman is so beautiful and so smart. And then when we get behind closed doors, it's a entirely different story. They can tell everyone she's amazing and never actually show up for her at home where it really counts. A man who loves you will not need to use your name to feel important. Let me say that again. And I probably will make a post out of this and put this on social media. A man who loves you will not need to use your name to feel important. He will not feel threatened by your title. He will have his own identity and he will know how to cover yours. For visible women, privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is protection. And a man with that understanding is rare, but he exists. And that is the man worth waiting for. This is why on the Feminine Elite Society app and in my private circles, I go deep into why privacy is huge. And if you work in some of my spaces, especially Future Wives Club, I'm okay with women being private. I get it. And people don't understand that. They think, but as soon as you get a man, you're supposed to announce that on social media. As soon as he takes you to a restaurant, you're supposed to announce that to everyone. As soon as you board the jet, as soon as you're on the PJ flying somewhere, you're supposed to tell everybody, right? Ugh. So they don't get it. So they think you're trying to keep a secret. And so they kind of take shots at you as if you are insecure in your position with your man. You're insecure at how he feels. No, baby, you're not insecure about the relationship. You're just private. And people just don't understand that. They have this proletariat approach mindset towards relationships. Everything has to be on full blast. That's not how this world works. Right? Your success does not disqualify you from love, but it does require sharper discernment and precise vetting skills when it comes to determining who's actually ready to walk alongside a woman like yourself who carries what you carry. So drop in the chat, what does it mean to you for a man to cover you? You can use one word or you can use a phrase. You're not selfish. You are just focused. But love requires something different. I want to say something and I need you to receive it the way I want you to receive it. So let me go slow through this section. People have called you selfish. Maybe a man said it. Maybe a family member. Maybe you heard some red pill podcast or some random YouTube video or read it on some social media meme or article. Maybe you heard it from other judgmental women or whispers from your colleagues about how ambitious you are. They took shots at you low key. Maybe it was just a feeling that you carried quietly, this low grade guilt about how much space your ambition takes up in your life. They all claim to know what you need, what you think, how you should feel, and how you should move. They all seem to suggest you screwed up your life because you didn't do things the way they understand them to be done. And they all seem to gloat at your confusion about love and marriage. The more you struggle with love and marriage with men, the more they seem to secretly gloat. It's almost like they enjoy seeing you be confused and hurt and frustrated. I want to tell you something. What looked like selfishness was actually dedication. It was the singular focus that built everything you have. The early mornings you put in, the sacrifice weekends you put in, the long hours you put in. Right? You declined the vacation or the girls' trips because you wanted to put in some extra hours at work or on a project. That wasn't selfishness. That was dedication. You started something and you wanted to be good at it and you wanted to finish something, right? The long hours you put in and things like that. The relationships you put on the back burner because the work needed you first. A lot of times you met great guys, but the relationship had to go on the back burner because you had work to do. That was not selfishness. That was the cost of becoming. Now, are there some women out there that said, I'm going to wait and I'm going to postpone marriage and things like that? Yes, but all of you weren't like that. And people just misinterpret that. They misunderstand that. And they just assign this blanket, you're all selfish, you're all anti-marriage, you're all anti-family. For a lot of women, That dedication got their families out of poverty. That dedication changed the trajectory of their families. That dedication allowed them to see places of the world they will never see, be invited into rooms that no one they know was ever invited in, right? And so they had to pay a cost to become. And a lot of people just don't understand the wages that you had to pay and the sacrifices that you had to make for this to happen. And you don't owe anyone an apology for paying those wages because you paid them. But here is where it gets honest, and I want you to hear me with your heart again. That same singular focus that you had and have, that one that built your career, can quietly work against you in love. And the C-suite women that I've worked with, we were successful because I had to help them make that switch. I had to convince her that it's okay to actually make that switch. It's okay. And people won't understand the sacrifice you made. That's okay. They don't have to understand the sacrifice you made. It's not for all of them to understand the sacrifice you made. Let them misunderstand you. You just get the information and get what you want. And she was able to pop up married, and everybody was like, I didn't even know you were dating. Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You're not here to please them and affirm them and prove them right or wrong. Your job is to get what it is you need. That's it. And that's what I had to convince her of. You're working with me to get what it is you want, not to please them. If you need to please them, you're wasting money with me, baby. You're with me so that you could get what it is you want. And I made it okay for her to be a high performance woman. But I also had to bring her to the realization that, okay, now let's see how we show up in our relationships. Now let's see how we show up as a wife. You've mastered the personal brand, but let's refine it a little bit so that we show up as a wife as well. And she was successful. Those women, those C-suite women that came through my program that were able to do that, they're successful. One, she was worried about, because she was over 40, she was worried about if she would ever become a mom. But she did. And her baby is beautiful. She said, never thought of it as dedication, Nicole. Thank you for pointing it out and articulating it that way. Yes, dedication. Like, you don't want to get in something and then stop. Right? You've come so far. You've sacrificed so much. Those late night parties you couldn't go to in college because you had an exam. Those trips you wanted to take but you were launching a new product, or you had a project at work you had to finish. People trusted you. You've been campaigning for a new position and they finally start to notice you, and then your friends want to hang out. They want to jump on a plane and go somewhere, and you want to go too. But you're dedicated to what you started, and you feel like that career accolade is something that you need, is a part of your fulfillment, and you've worked hard for that. Being on that TV show or being able to make this spot or whatever, you feel like you earned that, and you have, and that's dedication. Some people who don't understand watch and pray. Some of them that don't understand, they mischaracterize you, and that hurts your feelings. They have this generic dating advice for all women that like you, because they really don't understand your world. They just kind of push you out. Oh yeah, you're selfish. You don't want a wife. You don't want to be a wife. You don't want to be have a family, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. Men have been successful relationships with high achieving women, have high self-esteem, and allow their wives' light to shine. They are big supporters of their wife's ambition. See, you have a man telling you that when he's into his woman, he loves his woman, he is her big supporter. But here's where it gets honest, and I want you to hear me with your heart. Let me say it again. That same focus, the one that built your career, can quietly work against you in love, because career can be built alone. A godly marriage that lasts is going to take two people. That's the adjustment. That's what I had to let my clients know. That's the adjustment, right? You built the career alone and you mastered that. Nobody's questioning that. Nobody can take that away from you. However, when we're trying to switch gears and be prepared to be a wife, now we have to understand it takes two people. right? We have to allow space now for the other person, for our husband. Marriage requires negotiation. It requires flexibility. It requires two people with two lives learning how to build one together, either without either of them disappearing in the process, right? And if you have spent a decade or more operating as a solo architect of your own life, that may be a real adjustment for you. I know it was for my clients that I worked with. That was the adjustment. That was the adjustment, was letting her feel okay for being a high performer. She was always a high performer, even in school. Always. And so when she became a TV producer, same thing. So high producer. But what I wanted her to see was now in marriage, it takes two people. You don't have to do everything alone. That's what he's there for, right? So now we have to switch gears here, right? You've been the solo architect and you've done well, you've built well, but the kind of marriage that you want that's actually going to fulfill you, that you can maintain and sustain, all right, we have to make place for him. It's not an impossible thing to do, to adjust, but it takes a real adjustment. I also want to name something else that lives in this space. It's called the list. You know what I mean? The list of everything he needs to be, child. And some of what is on that list is wise. So I'm not knocking some of those things like character, faith, maturity, intention. Great. Intention to be married. That's great. Oh, Shay up in the building. Thank you so much, sweetie. Long time no see. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate you, my brother. How you doing? You staying safe over there? Oh, listen, y'all. You all make sure you follow his channel. But some of what is on that list is off the chain, and some of that is a preference dressed up as a requirement, and there's a difference. Being discerning is not the same as being impractical. A woman who has spent years achieving can sometimes build a standard for a man that is less about what she needs and more about what proves she has not compromised. And that's worth us looking at and examining. Here's a harder question. I want you to pause this video for those of you listening to the rebroadcast and think about, do you actually know what you want? Not what looks good on paper and not what people think you should be with, and you're listening to the public tell you what kind of man you should have. Just what do you want? Not what would impress your circle, not your PR rep or your manager approves for your brand, not what looks good for the company, not what matches the aesthetic of the life you've built. Because some successful women have been so focused on building that they have never sat long enough to answer those questions honestly. Be honest with themselves. They've been choosing me. They've been choosing men based on what everybody else wants, what mom and daddy wants, what the culture wants, what the public wants, what my PR rep says is good for me, all of these things instead of what they want. Because some successful women have been so focused on building that they have never sat long enough to answer those questions honestly. And you cannot vet for what you have not defined. And then there's the question of values, not shared interest, values. Because C-suite women and the public figure woman, whether it's acting, whether it's sports, whether it's modeling, whether it's a social media influencer, whatever, you want a family. Those that want a family will eventually have to make room for one. Simple as that. And that requires a kind of flexibility that the boardroom and your PR people, your PR team and your manager, they don't train you for that. The boardroom was designed for men who had wives at home to run the household while he was out working all hours, not for women to be there full time away from home. So women in the boardroom can't run their romantic lives like their male colleagues. If you're on a set for weeks at a time, it's really not designed for the housewife when you're on set for weeks at a time. You're on location. in Scotland or Canada. It's not really designed for that. You need a life, a husband that understands that, and nobody carves that out for you. You just know at some point in your life you reach that point, and you go, wait, 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 wait. I'm ready for a wife. I'm ready to be a wife. And we see that where it happened to Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. It happened to years ago. Prince Rainier told Grace Kelly, "Look, no more movies. I need you in the palace. I need you raising my children." That was a sacrifice she had to make to walk away from movies, because Alfred Hitchcock would have had her making movies until whenever. Alfred Hitchcock and Grace Kelly was a team. And Alfred Hitchcock, hey, let's keep this gravy train moving. I can't remember the movies right off the bat right here, but if you can remember some of the movies they teamed up and did. Alfred was like, yeah, let's keep this gravy train going. Grace Kelly, let's go. Your name in on the marquee gets people in those movie theaters. Let's go. And but something inside of her said, I'm ready to be a wife and mother. It just so happens that that man happened to be a prince of his own little kingdom. And his prerequisite was like, okay, I get it. However, I need you to walk away from movies because I can't have you gone on location for weeks at a time. Like, we live here in Monaco, but you're in LA for weeks at a time shooting. Or you're in, I don't know, Mexico somewhere shooting a film. Or you're in Florida somewhere, New York. I can't have that. I need you at home. Those are the sacrifices that the PR team, they want to keep that money coming in. Hey, you got another movie. Hey, Lionsgate just emailed. They got, I heard from the Lionsgate. I heard from Paramount. They have a new role for you. Right? Or it's another company that's giving you a handsome offer. So they're willing to move you from New York to Seattle. Big jump. But you're like, hey, the money is right. Yeah, but all of these things are lining up. But you're like, at some point, wanting a family and trying to figure out why my life isn't designed for that. It requires knowing what you are willing to negotiate and what is non negotiable and being honest about which is which. This is why a lot of marriages don't last in Hollywood and in the music industry and in real life. And with women that are high powered and high performing. Men don't date intentionally. Oh, yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do, baby. Oh, they do. And so, this is why, because no one was able to help them understand at some point you're going to want marriage. So, what sacrifices are you willing to make sure that marriage works? For example, Johnny Depp had his woman, his children's mother. I don't know if they were married or not. I'm not sure. But he was the main draw, and she stopped acting so they could raise the children. Another prime example of a couple that's in Hollywood that has managed to last, specifically because she had to step away, and that's Michelle Pfeiffer and David E. Kelly. David E. Kelly is a writer. He's a great writer. Some of my favorite shows he wrote. Michelle Pfeiffer, great actress in the late 70s, early 80s, around that time, I believe it is. Great actress. She had to step away from Hollywood a little bit in order for that to work. Notice when she got married, she had to step away. And I'm saying these are sacrifices for family. I'm not saying everything. You're the only person that has to make a sacrifice. And that's the thing that I had to make some of my clients understand, is that it feels like you're the only one making the sacrifice because those sacrifices are sacrificial. Like, they are hitting home. I get it, but you're not the only one making a sacrifice. In order for families to work in harmony, everybody in the family has to make a sacrifice. Everybody has to do their part, right? And I go much deeper on all of this inside the Pop-Up Married program. The desire for simplification work, the values alignment framework, and how to build the flexibility that marriage requires without losing yourself is in the process, is the Pop-Up Married. And then you pop up married. All of that stuff is inside that program. But I at least needed to name it here today because this is where a lot of accomplished women get quietly stuck. That's their bottleneck. It's not the desire for marriage that the culture makes everybody think that they're just out here and they don't want family and they don't want to be loved. That's not it. It's just nobody broke it down to them how to fit that into their life and what kind of strategy they need. And that's why I'm here. The goal is not to become a different woman, which is what I had to let my clients know. I'm not telling you to be Susie Homemaker that every day you wake up and you have breakfast, 3 lunches, and you clean 3 meals and you clean the house all day, every day, and you turn down really good offers for your face or your company or not saying that. I'm not telling you to be a different woman, to become this trad wife or this Stepford wife, or become this wife that has no voice with tape on her mouth. That's not what I'm telling you. The goal is to become a more self-aware woman, a woman who knows what she actually wants, and she's honest about what she actually is willing to build, and has the discernment and vetting wisdom to recognize what she has when she's found the right man to build with. Instead of recognizing him after he left, you recognize him when he shows up. Be honest with yourself right now. Do you actually know what you want inside of a marriage, or do you know what looks good from the outside? That's a hard question. That's a hard question. And my final point here is you cannot use casual dating rules when your life requires wife level discernment. And what do I mean by that? Here is the final thing I need to say before I give you the framework. Most dating advice from the culture is created for women who are available, possibly undefined, and still building their lives, still healing and figuring things out. That's why everything is healing, healing, healing. No problems with that, but it doesn't fit you. The advice assumes flexibility. It assumes that you can date casually and figure it out along the way. But that's not you. You're not building your life, you've built it. And the decisions you make about who you let into your private world have real consequences for your reputation, your brand, your peace, your legacy. I mean, you have people depending on you. You write checks. They live off of what you pay them. I mean, one move, your brand is damaged, people's checks get a little bit smaller. So you have a lot riding on the decisions you make. You might be running a department, and if one misstep and you get moved or demoted or have to leave the company, it's a lot of people, um, you know, a lot of people depending on your decisions. So you cannot use casual dating rules when your life requires wife level discernment. Casual dating is how women with nothing to lose try things out. You're not that woman, and the strategy should match who you actually are. That is not being rigid. That is about being clear. A woman who knows what she's preparing for does not settle into situations and situationships that cannot produce what she is actually called to. She does not give access to men who are not moving with intentions to be married. Here's another scripture for your Bible study, Proverbs 31:10. It says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find a good girl? For her worth is far above rubies." She is not just available to anyone who shows up. Her value is specific and her access is earned. You're not hard to love. You may simply require a man with more maturity than the men who keep approaching you. And that is not a problem. It's just a standard. In one word, what is the one thing you are no longer willing to compromise in a courtship? Drop it in the chat. And for those of you listening to me on the replay, go ahead and answer that question amongst yourself. She says, am I green about trad marriage. Okay. She's having a conversation about herself about trad marriage. I see. I understand. Are you ready for the filters, ladies? Let's talk about the filters. Okay. This is what you came for. I built something that I call the 5 private love filters for visible women, and I'm going to give them to you. These are not dating tips, these are discernment tools specifically designed for women who have status, scrutiny, and something to lose. Thank you, Mackie Samuel. Shout out to you. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, men that have successful relationships with high achieving women have high self esteem. That's a very good point. And they are big supporters of their wives' ambitions. So, ladies, for those of you that don't think these men exist, baby, yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do. That's what I'm here to help you understand and recognize when he shows up. Because when he shows up, you have to understand that you understand the assignment. That's like Meghan Markle not understanding the assignment. You lost me? Hold on. Not understanding the assignment when she met her husband, when she met the prince. Not understanding that. She understood the assignment. And she wasn't trying to figure it out when she met him. She understood. That's where I'm trying to get you to. These men do exist. We just have to be able to recognize them when we meet them. You still there with me? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. You still there? Says stream unavailable. Oh, okay. Oh boy. Okay. Oh, okay.